Welcome, everyone. This is a podcast that shares real-life case studies from real-life campaigns run by our top ad buyers. The best part is you'll have a chance to hire these pros at the end of each show. My name is Kate Buck, and today I am sitting down with Joakim Hansson, a top ad buyer here at AdSkills, and he is going to share with you some of his best case studies. So welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I heard that you have been crushing it in some of your, in some of the tests, the split tests that you've been running, Facebook versus YouTube and ManyChat versus ClickFunnels, but I want to hear all about those. But before we dive in, I'd love to hear a little bit about your path and your story about what got you into media buying and what led you to where you are now.
Yeah, so my background comes from offline businesses, really, and I was the CEO of two 8-figure companies and a CMO and VP of marketing and sales for a 9-figure company for a long time before I, in 2009, discovered I was really tired of, I had 300 employees at the time. And I didn't really like it very much anymore. So I discovered that you can actually make a living from home and working online. And just totally turned into that. And I'm a marketer by training, marketing and sales. I've been worked with that, but not so much direct response until 2009 when I discovered that and really dove into that. So I started out doing all kinds of things with direct response marketing online, and it turned into media buying because I had been using Google AdWords for my businesses since 2004. So I was familiar with that since quite some time. Started then using Facebook ads immediately when I came online in 2009. And all things I was doing within the digital marketing space, I figured out that media buying was what I loved doing and what I was actually best at. So that led me then later on to kind of focus on that specifically. So that's kind of the path that led me to where I am now.
You mentioned that you have been online since I heard 2004 and 2009. So I'm curious, when you came into the AdSkills community, you know, what about it really impacted you or helped benefit you to reach this level of success beyond what you had already been experiencing prior in your media buying career prior to that? Well,
I had been learning everything by myself, basically, by testing and doing. I, after having had big organizations, I didn't want to really work in a team, so I worked alone and for 9 years until last year. And when I came into AdSkills a few years back, it became like an online version of having a management team almost, because you had specialists there in all kinds of fields and so on, that it enabled me to get really quick answers to questions that I before that had to figure out by myself, and sometimes that both cost money in ad spend and time to find answers to. And in AdSkills, you can basically just get those answers by a quick question in the Slack channel.
That's really awesome. So it shortened the amount of time it took you to learn about something you had a question with, which really, time is money in the media buying space. That is,
yeah, and
wouldn't you say?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. I will also add to that I have picked up a few clients from the leads that has been sent through there, which is obviously very nice. I have also a media buyer working for me now that I met in AdSkills, is also a certified media buyer that, you know, enabled me to start to build a team again that I was reluctant to, because I trusted his knowledge, since I knew where he was trained within, right? Because I didn't want to train people or start, you know, having the kind of obstacle that taking on people and they didn't know what they were doing. If somebody comes from AdSkills training, I know that they have the same thinking. They know what they're doing. So it has helped me in those ways as well.
That's really awesome. Yeah, having a community of like-minded folks and knowing what training that they've been through gives you some certainty when you hire them to execute on behalf of your clients, that they'll do a good job. Speaking of which, I'd love to hear about some of these campaign successes that you've been running. Will you tell me about them?
Yes, of course. I mean, we work across multiple networks. I've been using both Google and Facebook, as I said before, for quite some time. And YouTube, I started using in 2013. And I love to work with multiple networks. I like to have them work together. A lot of the times people try to specialize, or they say you need to be specialized in one ad network, and that's all good. However, I think you miss out a lot, because if you have one media buyer or agency working on Facebook, another one on YouTube, and a third one on the display network, etc., they are not so usually openly willing to cooperate. And they will both, or all three, take credit for a sale, for instance, because that's how the ad networks pixels and tracking works, that if somebody clicks on YouTube ad and then they buy after 15 days or 28 days, and the same thing if they might see a YouTube or a Facebook ad and they click and they buy, so they both claim the sale. So we want to work and instead of having them compete, we like them to work together, which is why we also build tracking by ourselves, not trusting that. That's another thing, which is very, very important. However, when it comes to this testing, also what ad networks to lead with, we do that as well. And I mentioned before, we tested running cold traffic to a webinar funnel where they had a webinar once per week, live webinar every Thursday. We ran traffic from Sunday through Thursday. And then they had an offer, which was it was a 497 euros, so about $550 product they were selling on the webinar, which is a model that is not so commonly used nowadays because it is difficult for it to convert, but they still managed to do that. And the interesting thing was that when we started testing YouTube versus Facebook, we spent 3,000 euros on each ad network 1 week. So totally 6,000 euros. That's about 6,500 US, right? The cost per lead were very similar. The cost per lead was actually, it was about just 34% higher on Facebook. So that itself tells you that, okay, that's not, YouTube is a lot better. And the earnings per lead was 89% higher on YouTube, which is the main thing that we want to look at. So 30%, that's a big difference, but 89% in earnings means that the YouTube traffic converted a lot better, right? And I think the reason for that is that people come to YouTube to learn. You come there with an intent to watch perhaps just some whatever information, but a lot of the times you come there to actually learn something. You search for something, you learn something, and there shows up an ad that is relevant, and you're in that state of learning, and you sign up for a webinar when you want to learn something. Whilst at Facebook, it's just an interruption more, right? Makes
perfect sense. And the cost per lead is higher. So if the cost per lead is lower on YouTube, plus the earnings per lead is higher on YouTube, then it sounds like, people default and go to Facebook maybe first because it's the one they know of, or the easier one, or the one they've used the most or something. But that split test really showed that for your client, they were getting better leads better buyers from YouTube. And so it's worth making that transition over to another ad network, even if haven't used it before. It might be new to you. So tell me, I'm curious about this ManyChat versus ClickFunnels split test as well. I bet our listeners want to hear about what you learned in that split test as well.
Yeah, so that was for the same webinar funnel actually, because we had using the messenger bot with ManyChat versus a traditional opt-in page that was hosted on ClickFunnels. And we wanted to test and see how the difference, if there was a difference in earnings there as well between how they came in. And a lot of the times you read about how people get this really amazing low cost per lead using the messenger bots. And that's probably true, but it's the earnings that is the most important, and how that worked out. So again, we spent $27.50 in 4 days US on each channel to the webinar. Cost per lead was lower on ManyChat, was just 13% lower. So I would have expected it would be actually quite a bit much lower, but it was 13% lower. But the earnings per lead was 80% higher on ClickFunnels. So when people came in via the traditional opt-in page, we were making 80% more per lead. So that is, in other terms, the cost per acquisition was 4 times lower on ClickFunnels. So we're buying a customer at 4 times lower cost when they came in via the opt-in page. So the numbers, the clicks, the cost per lead, all of this we need to really look at in the right context. And usually it's the earnings per lead that is the most important thing in the end, right? That the cost per acquisition of a customer. And that was quite an interesting thing as well with that.
Yeah, especially you do hear a lot now about everyone kind of talking about ManyChat and putting people on a webinar, sending them a link, but first getting them onto their ManyChat list. So sometimes that quality versus quantity thing, right? Maybe you're getting more people to register for the webinar by using ManyChat, but doesn't necessarily mean that the people that are coming in that way are the right buyers for the product.
No, exactly. And I will add to that we actually had that pre-framing series of messages going out from the ManyChat bot. We had 3 videos sent to people, within one video every day with content and these things that came in to the Messenger inbox for the people who had registered there. We had obviously the email pre-framing sequence going out on email to the people that came in from the email opt-in page, right? So all that was in place. So if someone is thinking that we actually just got an opt-in and then that was it, that was not the case. We actually had all of that in place on both of these channels.
That's awesome. Now, I want to talk a little bit about like the types of clients that you like to work with or that you found success with. Like, is there a certain niche or a certain type of products that people have that you are most closely focused on, or that you've been able to really have a lot of success with?
Yeah, we'd like to work with people that have an online business. Now, a lot of people watching this probably takes that as a given, but obviously there's a lot of clients out there with offline businesses that wants to do online ads. But we kind of focus on established online businesses that probably have 6-figure or 7 or 8-figure yearly sales already, and they want to scale. So that they have an offer that has already been proven to convert with cold traffic. And that's also very important, because if it's been just working with the JV traffic and etc., it's not a given that it will work with cold traffic, because our kind of core thing, what we're good at, is to scale to 100 or 1,000 more per ad network per month, and usually that it's different skill set, and I need to approach a campaign in a completely different way if I want to spend 5K, 10K per month or if I want to spend 100K per month. So we figured that, okay, that's kind of, we noticed we're quite good at that. And then, so that's what we focus on. Because I also, after having had a big organization in the past, I don't want to build out the agency with lots of clients. So we work with a limited number of clients that spend 25,000 per month or so, at least when they come into us. And then we want to scale them to multiple hundreds of thousands.
Well, all right. So online business owners that have an offer that is converting already to cold traffic and they're looking to scale, sounds like we will probably have a few of those folks listening to this podcast. I'd love for you to let them know how they could get in touch with you if they're interested in taking the next steps.
So it's just win-win-win-marketing.eu, and they can just send an email through there, or they can use my name, which is just Joakim, Joakim, at www.m.eu. And it comes straight in my inbox, and I read all the emails myself, reply to them myself. So that's the two easiest way to get in touch.
Awesome. So that website was win-win-win-marketing.eu.
Exactly. That's it.
All right. I like that. That's a great name. Well, thank you so much for being on. I feel like I learned a lot from this episode. So it was really great chatting with you, and I look forward to perhaps speaking with you on a future episode.
All right. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
If you'd like to learn more about how to use paid traffic and analytics to scale your business, subscribe to the AdSkills channel so you'll be notified every time new content is released. If you'd like to learn more about the topic we just discussed, check out the related video we're posting right now.